ADHD, the lazy perfectionist. I used to think I was just lazy. Every time I sat down to work on something important, I would freeze. My mind would fill with ideas, all these amazing plans for how I wanted things to turn out. But instead of feeling motivated, I'd feel stuck. I'd look around at everything I needed to do, and it was like my body refused to move. I'd tell myself, I'll start in 5 minutes, but those minutes would stretch into hours, then days. I hated myself for it. I thought I didn't care enough, or maybe I was just bad at being an adult. But the truth was I cared too much. That's what I didn't understand back then. Every task felt like it had to be perfect, or it wasn't worth doing at all. If I started writing something, I wanted every word to be flawless. If I was cleaning, I felt like I had to reorganize the entire room from top to bottom. If I was planning a project, I wanted it to be so impressive that no one could criticize it. But that need for perfection made everything feel so heavy. Before I even began, my brain would race ahead to all the ways it could go wrong. What if I messed up? What if people thought I was stupid? What if it wasn't good enough? Those thoughts would stack up until the weight became unbearable. So I avoided it. I told myself I'd wait until I had more energy, more time, or the perfect idea. But that day never came. On the outside, it probably looked like I didn't care. People would say, "You're just procrastinating," or "You're lazy." I started to believe that too. But inside, I was drowning in pressure. I wanted so badly to prove I was capable. I needed everything to be flawless because, deep down, I was terrified that if it wasn't, I'd be seen as a failure. So, I froze. And then I'd hate myself for freezing. The cycle just kept spinning. The hardest part was that no one could see how much effort I was putting in because all the work was happening in my head. I was planning every detail, rewriting every word before I even typed it, cleaning the room in my mind 100 times before I touched a single thing. But none of that mental effort counted because, in the real world, nothing was getting done. That made me feel even worse. I thought, if I'm working this hard in my head and still failing, maybe I really am just broken. But I wasn't broken. That need for perfection was my brain trying to protect me. It was trying to make sure I didn't get hurt, didn't get criticized, didn't disappoint anyone. But instead of keeping me safe, it kept me stuck. There's a moment that comes when everything feels like it's caving in. Tasks start stacking up, dishes in the sink, emails unanswered, that project sitting half finished. And instead of rolling up my sleeves and getting to work, I freeze. I stare at the mess, at the list of things I swore I'd handle, and my body just stops. I know what I need to do. I even tell myself it won't take that long if I just start. But I don't. I sit there scrolling my phone, watching TV, doing anything but the thing that actually needs to be done. And the longer I sit there, the worse I feel. Guilt creeps in, mixing with shame, whispering that I'm wasting time, that I'm falling behind, that I'm letting everyone down. But none of that pushes me to move. It just makes me feel more stuck. It's not that I don't care. It's not that I'm lazy. My brain is overwhelmed, like it's short-circuiting. The weight of everything I need to handle feels so massive that it triggers this invisible wall. And no matter how many times I tell myself to just push through, that wall doesn't budge. It's like standing at the foot of a mountain with no gear, knowing I'm expected to climb, but feeling like I might collapse before I even take the first step. And the worst part is that sometimes the task isn't even that big. It's sending a 2-sentence email. It's putting away clean clothes. It's making a phone call that will last 5 minutes. But my brain doesn't see it that way. It registers everything as a threat, a challenge I might fail, a chance to mess up and be judged. So, it slams the brakes, keeping me still while my thoughts spiral out of control. The guilt doesn't just sit quietly either. It grows louder every hour, turning into this harsh inner voice telling me I'm irresponsible, that I'm disappointing everyone, that I'm failing at life. I replay every time someone called me unreliable, every time I promised I'd do better and didn't. That voice makes me want to escape, to zone out, to forget the weight on my chest. But running from it never works because the moment I look back at that list or that pile of dirty dishes, it's all still there, bigger than before. And I feel even smaller. There's this rush that comes when something clicks perfectly into place. That feeling when I finish a task quickly and someone notices, or when I come up with an idea and people say it's brilliant. It's like a spark in my brain, this little burst of excitement that makes me feel capable, even unstoppable. But that feeling is rare. Most of the time, the work in front of me doesn't offer that quick reward. It's slow, repetitive, and uncertain. And when my brain senses that, it starts pushing back. Suddenly, everything feels harder than it should be. The idea of spending hours on something that might not even turn out right, or worse, might go unnoticed, becomes unbearable. My mind starts searching for anything that feels easier, anything that can give me that quick hit of satisfaction. That's when I reach for my phone, open social media, or jump between 10 different tabs. Even though I know I'm wasting time, those little distractions give me quick wins. Likes on a post, a funny video, a message from a friend. Each one gives my brain a tiny dose of what it's craving. It's not that I don't want to work, it's that my brain is wired to chase those fast rewards. And long tasks with no clear payoff feel like torture. Writing something that might not be good enough, cleaning a room when no one will notice, studying when the results are months away, my brain sees all of that as effort without a guaranteed prize. And it resists. Hard. Perfectionism makes this even worse. When I finally work up the courage to start something, I want it to be amazing right away. I want that instant success, that rush of feeling proud. But real work doesn't work like that. Progress is slow. Drafts are messy. Results take time. And every time I don't get that fast payoff, it feels like proof I'm not good enough. So, I give up, or I switch to something easier, something that will let me feel good right now, even if it means feeling worse later. And that's the trap. The need for quick rewards pulls me away from the work that actually matters, leaving me stuck, chasing sparks when what I really need is a fire. When I finally push past the wall and start something, it's like a switch flips. Suddenly, I'm all in. I forget to eat, I stay up late, I block everything else out because now I need this to be perfect. I tell myself I'm making up for all the time I wasted, proving that I can do it, showing everyone, and myself, that I'm not lazy, that I'm capable. But that drive doesn't come from excitement. It comes from fear. Fear that if I slow down, I'll lose the momentum, or worse, it won't be good enough. So I keep going, fixing every little detail, rewriting things that were fine the first time, chasing some flawless version in my head. And by the time I finish, if I even finish, I'm exhausted, burnt out, and already dreading the next thing. Other times, the swing goes the opposite way. I start strong, motivated by this picture I build in my mind of how amazing it's going to be. But reality never quite looks like that picture. The words on the page don't sound as good as they did in my head. The room I'm organizing doesn't look as perfect as I imagined. The project I planned starts falling apart because life gets in the way. And the moment I see that gap between what I wanted and what's actually happening, it's like a punch to the gut. That voice comes back, telling me I'm not good enough, that I'll never get it right. And instead of pushing through, I shut down. I walk away, leaving things half-finished because giving up feels easier than facing that disappointment. Both extremes drain me. When I push too hard, I burn out and avoid starting again. When I shut down, I carry the guilt of another unfinished thing, another reminder that I couldn't follow through. It's like every project becomes this high-stakes test. Either I get it perfect or I fail completely. There's no middle ground, no room for progress or imperfection. Just all or nothing, over and over, until it wears me down. There was a moment when I had to face the truth. Waiting for perfect was keeping me stuck. Every time I held off because I wanted things to turn out exactly right, I ended up with nothing. Projects stayed unfinished, ideas never saw the light of day, and the guilt just built up. I started to realize that the real victory wasn't in making something flawless. It was in getting it done, no matter how rough or small it was. The first time I let myself finish something imperfect, it felt uncomfortable, like I was lowering my standards. But when I stepped back and saw that it was done, something shifted. That relief, that weight lifting off my chest, felt better than perfect ever had. I began to lean into that feeling, writing something without obsessing over every word, cleaning a little bit even if the whole room wasn't spotless, starting a project without knowing exactly how it would end. Those small wins started adding up. My brain slowly started to see progress as its own kind of reward. It didn't need to be huge or impressive. Just moving forward bit by bit was enough to quiet that voice telling me I'd fail. I realized I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. I just had to keep showing up, letting those imperfect steps build into something real. And the more I did, the less power perfect had over me.
If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, we prepared the next video especially for you. Click here to watch.